Alright guys, so in keeping with our previous theme of creating the Twitter character count functionality, we want to improve this a little bit because as nice as it may be telling the user that they have written 182 characters and that they've gone over by 42 characters, it would be a lot nicer if we simply enforce this rule by removing the extra characters. So for example, if I head over here and I paste in a huge paragraph, then you can see that it gets cut off at 280 characters and all the rest is deleted. So how can we implement this using JavaScript? Well, first we have to learn about a function called slice. And just as its name suggests, it basically allows you to slice and dice your strings to separate them into individual characters. Now, let me show you how slice works. So I'm going to go ahead and select these two lines, and I'm going to comment out all of them by holding down the Command key and hitting /. Now, on Windows, it's holding down Control and hitting the /, but it does exactly the same thing. It takes our code and turns it into a comment. So let's say that I have a variable that's called name and it contains the string Angela. If I take the name variable and I slice it by writing .slice, then I can specify which slice I would like out of this string. So say if I only want the first character in this string, then I can simply write 0, 1. And this means that I'm trying to take the slice out of this string called name from position 0 all the way to, but not including position 1. So that is equal to simply the first character. And now if I hit run, you can see that what we get is the capital letter A, which is the first letter in this string. So a really important thing to remember is that programmers always count from 0. So the capital A is at position 0 and not at position 1. So that means that the last letter or the sixth letter is actually at position 5 because we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in order to get the last letter of this variable, then I would have to say, give me the character at position 5 and continue until but not including position 6. And of course, there is no character at position 6, but by saying 5, 6, we're only grabbing the last character at position 5, which is of course the lowercase letter a. Now, I can also grab a bigger slice by having a larger range inside here. So for example, if I wrote name.slice 0, 3, can you predict what the output will be based on this code? So the slice that starts off with the first character or the character at position 0 and then ends before the character at position 3. So remember 0, 1, 2, 3? That means that our output should be ANG. And that's exactly what we get. So a quick shortcut to know how many characters you're actually slicing is to simply take the upper bound and minus the lower bound. So 3 minus 0 is 3. So that means you get 3 characters out. If I wrote instead 1, 5, 5 minus 1 is 4. So I should be getting 4 characters out. And indeed, that's what happens. So let's say that we have a string, ABC, and we use the slice function on it. Then it allows us to separate the string into separate characters. But more importantly, we can pick and choose which slices we would like out of this original string. So for example, if you write 0, 1, then you end up slicing at position 0 and then slicing at position 1. So you end up with the first character of the string, which in this case is A. Now it's really important to remember that programmers always count from 0. So the first character is always at position 0. And that means that the third character, rather unintuitively, is actually at position 2. Now, what about this case? What if we try to slice 1, 3? What is the outcome? Well, we start off at position 1. And we take the entire slice between position 1 and up to, but not including, position 3. Because you can see here we only have 3 items. one at position 0, one at position 1, and the last one at position 2. So by slicing from 1 to 3, then we end up with the characters BC. So this is what the syntax looks like. The function is called slice, and you give it two numbers, the starting position and the ending position. And you can't just write slice, you also have to specify what you want to slice. So bread.slice, or in our case, the name of a variable.slice. And it's really important that you keep to this syntax for your code to work. Now, once you're comfortable with the slice function, I want you to implement this Twitter character counter yourself by using what we learned about JavaScript. So you should be able to write some code that creates a prompt, and when you paste in a large paragraph of text, then it should give you an alert that cuts your tweet down to only 140 characters. So this will require what you've learned in this lesson about slice, as well as some of the knowledge from previous lessons. So pause the video now and see if you can complete this challenge. All right, so let's delete these few lines of code and let's uncomment our code here, which is exactly the same as commenting. So Command or Control plus /, and this now becomes highlighted as code and treated as code. So we've got a variable that's called tweet that gets bound to whatever the user enters in the prompt. And then we want to write an alert that cuts down the tweet to 140 characters. So we can create a variable called tweet under 140. And remember, we can't create variables with names that begin with numbers, but it can contain numbers. So tweet under 140 is going to equal to tweet, so that's whatever the user put into the prompt, dot slice, and then the all-important numbers. So in order to get the first 140 characters, we have to write 0, 140. And if we use that trick that we did before, which is where we try to calculate the range, then if we take 140 minus 0, that's 140 characters, starting from the first character. So now let's put a semicolon, and in the alert, we'll simply alert the tweet under 140 back to the user. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this long paragraph first, and then I'm going to hit enter and run our code. Then I'm going to paste in that long paragraph, hit OK, and I get back 140 characters, cutting it off at the 140th character. And if you want, you can go ahead and count this or use the dot length to get the computer to check it for you. Now, there might be a few variations on this solution, and that's totally fine. As long as it does exactly the same thing, then I'm happy that you've completed the challenge. Now, there's one way of dramatically cutting down these 3 lines of code into one, which some of you guys might have done, and that is removing the need for these variables. So we can, for example, take the value of this variable, tweet under 140, and replace it in here in the alert. And that allows us to delete this line. And instead of having a variable called tweet, we can also simply take the value of that variable and replace it in the code here. And that allows us to get rid of this first line. And this will work exactly the same as before. Now, in the next lesson, the final thing that we're going to explore with strings is how you can change the case of your string. So for all of that and more, I'll see you on the next lesson.